Today we sat down with Taylor Eldridge. He's the beat writer for Wichita State Athletics for the Wichita Eagle. We discuss the upcoming basketball season, go down memory lane under the Greg Marshall years, and a few things in between. I enjoyed this one. Hope you do the same. All right, we're live. Taylor, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. First off, you do a great job covering WSU.
You do.
Thank you.
As well as the high schools in the area.
Thank you.
Wichita's fortunate to have you. So I believe you started in 2017, is that right? Covering WSU?
WSU, yep. I did high schools before that, then went over about the same time they moved to the Americans. That's why I always tell people I kind of transitioned with them. That's when I started doing Wichita State, and yeah, I've done it ever since. The last 8 years now. It's crazy to think about. It's been that long.
Damn.
So you never covered them during the Missouri Valley. It was first year.
Yeah, it was the first year in the American. That was the team where they had all those seniors, that stacked senior class: Rashard Kelly, Shaquille Morris, all those guys, Landry Shamet, Austin Reeves, and they were top 10 like the whole season, and went out to San Diego, and pretty big favorites. They lost the first round to Marshall. John Elmore, he's now a TBT legend, mixtape legend, but yeah, so that was the first year I covered him, was that run in the American that very first year.
Yeah, that was a tough loss. He had a brother, John Elmore, did too.
Yeah, they both played in TBT, yeah.
Damn, he lit us up. I remember he had like balding and just burying threes. That WSU team was good.
Mm-hmm.
Man,
that was that the Cincinnati year where they did the checkered?
Yeah, that was. Yeah, and I've grown to appreciate that team like over the years, because now, I mean, I didn't realize how special that team really was until, we've seen what's come after. I didn't really, jumped on Wichita State. They've been to 7 straight NCAA tournaments. They had advanced in, I think, six of those years, and ever since I took over, they have not won an NCAA tournament game. So that's maybe I'm the curse.
Wow.
Paul Solendrop, he's the GOAT. It started out at Wichita Eagle. He was the beat writer for Wichita State all those years. He was the one that saw the rise of Turgeon and the rise of Marshall. And as soon as I take over, haven't won since. So
shit. You got to get out of there.
I know. Maybe go back to high schools. Yeah, I'm the curse.
So you saw the back end of Marshall, some good Marshall years still, and then everything since.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much has shifted, not just WSU, but the entire collegiate landscape.
Yeah, Wichita State, I would think, if you're looking at, some of the what can go wrong in, I think, conference realignment, too. I think they're a pretty good example of, and nothing at the fault of Wichita State. I mean, I think if you're an athletic director, you would make that move 10 times out of 10, given the information, what the American was looking like back in 2017. And, you're joining a conference with Houston and UConn and UCF, Cincinnati. Like, why wouldn't you want to, leave the Missouri Valley for that? But, yeah, I mean, it's just one of those, the dominoes just fell one way. And, Wichita State, it's just, it's been pretty bad, I think, for them, compared to what they thought it would be. They thought, they wouldn't have to worry about winning a conference tournament ever again. You could finish, 3rd or 4th in the American, and you could easily get in the tournament. And, that was true maybe the first 2 or 3 years, but not anymore. Now the American has turned into a one-bid league, and, the top dog, Memphis, they're trying to get out as hard as they can. So if they leave, and you're looking at a pretty rough conference. And, it's just interesting to look at. I always give people like the example like Wichita State and Creighton. They were, heading. They were so equal. I feel like towards the end of those Missouri Valley years, Creighton leaves for the Big East, and now you look at where they're at. A consistent top 25 program. They've gone up a level. Wichita State, they leave for the American, and just some bad luck, and obviously, things have happened at Wichita State that have changed that equation as well. And now they're kind of middle of the pack in the AAC, and it's a one big league, and it's just kind of crazy to think of how different those two programs are now, where they were pretty much peers 10 years ago.
For sure, man.
Right.
Two programs that have gone in completely different directions. I remember
they still have the coach too.
Yeah.
You know, he's been there. I don't know.
Forever. Yeah.
Greg McDermott's been there forever.
15 years.
I remember going to Coke Arena for those Wichita State Creighton games, man. There was nothing like Coke Arena back in the real heyday, Marshall Prime years. Shit, man. You even hear, like, even before that, look, Kyle Korver has talked about going to Coke Arena. I've heard him say, like, there's no place like Coke Arena. People are just screaming profanities. You know, that place was real lively.
Doug McDermott would talk about it, too.
Yeah.
The most hostile environment he played in would be Coke Arena.
Yeah, I got the tail end of that, like, really since COVID. It really hasn't been like that since COVID. Some of that has to do with, you know, just how different college basketball is right now. The transfer portal, you know, you look at NIL now, and like how easy it is to watch all these games on TV. That's affected it. So there's a lot of factors in. It's not just Wichita State, but yeah, really ever since COVID, you know, that's goes back to like how much I've grown to appreciate those early teams I covered that were selling out Coke Arena. It's like, you know, I kind of joke with Paul now when I see him at Coke Arena. It's like, you know, I almost forget what it was like to have, you know, 10,506 people there every single game, what it felt like. I mean, you get hints of it, you know. The Houston games at the tail end of when they were in the conference and they beat them and at Coke Arena, they went double overtime, I think, one year. Those games, you know, you get like 7,000-8,000 people, and even then, Roundhouse is loud. You know, it's a special environment. Even when it's half full, we get that a little bit with the aftershocks. You know, in the summer, that's only 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. But still, you can sense like how special it is to be in the Roundhouse and the Coke Arena. And yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since it's been 10,000 people, and I don't know when that next game will be. You know, obviously they gotta win. They gotta give people a reason to come to the arena. You know, come to Wichita State, and but man, it's I've grown to appreciate that. You know, it's been a long time now. You know, 5+ years since the last time we got a sold out Roundhouse.
For sure.
Did you grow up a Wichita State fan?
No, I was actually a K-State fan, so I didn't really pay that much attention to Wichita State during like that heyday where they're, you know, the Fred and Ron era, and you know, maybe that's helped me a little because, you know, when I have I've made like a friendship with Ron, you know, in the years since, and you know, I just know him as Ron. You know, he's super nice, and you know, he's just a genuinely good guy, and I don't see him through that prism of, you know, the Wichita State, you know, one of the all-time greats, and I remember more for NBA. I'm a big NBA fan, so I remember more with the Knicks. So, yeah, I was don't really have much of a history growing up with Wichita State, but obviously since I got the job, you know, you go back and read, you go back and watch, and you try to learn the history that way.
Gotcha. I feel like, as an outsider, I feel like there's a disconnect between the city and the program, and I think it's due to the portal. I think the city really liked watching guys come in, watching them develop their games year over year, and I feel like that connection just isn't there anymore.
Yeah. You look like a guy like Shaq, you know, when he first got here. That was before my time, but I've read stories about, you know, when he first got here, you know, Fred would just, you know, torture him, you know, because his work ethic wasn't there. And that's a guy you could see flashes of potential, but, you know, he didn't have it together those first 2-3 years. And to see a guy like that, you know, spend 5 years in a program, and by the end, shoot, I mean, you could make a real case that he's been the best big, you know, at Wichita State during that Marshall year, that senior year. He was so good. You know, sometimes I'll go back and just watch on Synergy. I'll go back and just watch clips of that team, and it's like, man, they were so talented, so deep, everywhere. And Shaquille was a big reason of that. And guys like that, I mean, you just don't ever get that anymore. I was actually just at Aftershocks practice right before this, and you know, talking to McDuff and Shard and guys like that. It's like, you guys really were like the last like 4-year group. You know, we saw that with Dexter Dennis and Mo Udeze, but they don't finish their careers here, so it's kind of weird. They had that weird COVID year. They spent 4 years here, but if you're just talking start a career at Wichita State, end a career at Wichita State, you know, it is Marcus McDuffie, Samaje Haynes-Jones. That class was the last one, and then the last memorable one was that 17-18 group with Shaq and Darrell Willis and all those guys, Rashard Kelly and Zach Brown, just saw him out there today too. And yeah, fans, they really enjoyed that. They enjoyed watching guys grow and develop and add stuff to their game and improve, and you get to watch them grow up. Look at like a guy like Fred. He was that babyface assassin that first year in the Final Four run, and then by the time he was gone, by the time he was a senior, he was that veteran dude that you could just tell, like, this is his team. Like, he just grew up here at Wichita State, and that's just special anywhere. And I think, especially at Wichita State, because they were winning at such a high level. And now it's like the winning is gone, at least at that level. The transfer portal, you're looking at new guys every single season. You don't hardly get to know these guys, and I think you'll get Xavier Bell, like TJ Williams, like a Wichita kid that wants to stay here in the program. That might be a 4 or 5 year kid, but yeah, I mean that the days of that being the norm, I think those are gone. And
sure.
Like you said, I mean that's really
sad.
Affected the fan base. I think
it's sad.
Yeah,
it is sad because looking back, throughout our watching history of WSU, when Marshall started, they were at the bottom, and you could just see it every year gradually rise through the same guys, gradually rise. Where now Mills doesn't have that opportunity, not even close to that opportunity. So it's going to be tough.
It's a completely different job. Yeah, I mean, I ask him that all the time, and he came from that era where you get a good recruiting class, you keep them for 4 years, you develop, you watch. I mean, that's what he did at Oral Roberts. He had a really good group. He took his lumps those first 2 years, but he got a really good recruiting class in, watched them grow, and that's when you use the portal. Bring one guy in, sprinkle in a couple new guys each year, but you have that same like 7-8 guys, that core. And that's not been the case. They tried it out this last season. They brought back a ton of experience from that first year, and it just didn't go well. And players didn't progress like they thought. The new guys didn't fill in like they thought, and it's just a lot of pressure on coaches to flip rosters, and you got to win right away. And even if you win, like if he wins big this third year, there's no guarantee you're going to win again the fourth year, because a lot of these guys are going to be gone.
Memphis is knocking at the door.
Yeah.
Shit, you aren't kidding.
Yeah, they just look at the all-conference team and, okay, that's our recruiting priorities. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's just so much pressure year over year, and it's hard to build a program. Like, you're lucky if you can get any guys to stay past, 2 years. I think that's kind of the sweet spot, is trying to find teams that you can keep together for 2 years. And that's kind of the new norm. And, yeah, I mean, I think the job now is so much different than when Mark Turgeon had it, or Greg Marshall, or IB, the very end of his. Like, that's when the portal started to really kick off. But it's so much different now, even then, like 4 years ago.
Have you heard of any sort of plan? So they've got 12 new faces coming in this year, right? If one of them makes all conference, is there a plan in place to try to keep this guy from, because they've lost Jaquan Walton, Colby Rogers back-to-back years to Memphis, and then Corey Washington just bounced to SMU. They're our 3 best players the last 3 seasons.
Quincy Ballard, Mississippi State, yeah.
Yeah, Quincy Ballard for sure. How about Jan's taking him? Damn it.
He's going to be good.
Have you heard of any sort of plan in place that if one of these guys does pan out to be a really good player, how are we going to keep him?
Yeah, so they keep NIL stuff behind closed doors for the most part. Like they don't like that stuff getting out, but I think it's just one of those situations where, like, at the end of the day, I think they've done, Emily Hebert and Kevin Saul, they've done an incredible job given like the cards they were dealt. And at the end of the day, like, Wichita State just has to win. And it's like one of those, chicken and the egg deals where it's like, the coaches are going to be like, well, if you want us to win, like, we need money to go out in the portal and get dudes. And the donors are like, well, if you want my money, like, I need to see something first to make me believe that, you're the right guy for the job. And I think that's the uphill challenge a lot of coaches face. People want to see it first, and it's just really tough. You just got to capture lightning in the bottle. It is possible. I mean, we've seen it all over the country. isolated places. You look at what Drake did last year with Ben McCollum.
Right.
He did that with pretty much all D3 guys or D2 guys that he brought over. So it can be done. It's not impossible. And Wichita State has done a really good job to position themselves in that top third in the American. So they're working with like a good amount of money relatively to their conference. Now, if you're talking like, the power 4, power 5, yeah, I mean, it's a drop in the bucket. It's going to be really hard to keep guys if they're getting offers from that level. But I do think they're confident, especially if they have a good year, that's going to, the fan interest is going to go up. Now you can kind of sell the program more. So I think it's really just up to, Paul Mills and, the staff. They got to win. I think that's the thing. Like, they've gone about as much money as they're going to get until they prove it on the court. And I know they like this team this year, but, so many new guys, so many new faces. You got to blend in a lot. And, yeah, it just feels like you have to capture lightning in a bottle one season, and then that can change your trajectory.
Mm-hmm. That's a great way to put it. It is lightning in a bottle.
Has the portal made it more difficult to cover teams like WSU?
Yeah, I would say recruiting is just so different now. When I first started, high school recruiting was still like the big deal. I still remember, I tell Tyson Etienne all the time, like that was like my first like recruiting memory of covering Wichita State. Like when they got him, I remember like how excited that coaching staff was, because a top 150 kid coming to Wichita State, from the Northeast, that's not really a spot where Wichita State had a ton of recruiting success. And Tyson was kind of like that first big get. And now you look at it and like they hardly recruit any high school kids. There is no, I remember like visits used to be a huge thing, like which high schoolers were coming on campus, who was at the game. And I mean, there's still some of that happens, but just not anywhere close to the same level. And now all the recruiting happens basically. I mean, they get some of it done in the fall. They'll bring in a JUCO guy here and there. But really, 90% of the recruiting, it happens after the season. And if we're being honest, it happens before the end of the season. Coaches are maneuvering, asking, getting, trying to read the tea leaves, I guess. And,
Sure.
Players are floating it out there. They all have agents now. The agents are floating it out there like, hey, if he goes in the portal, would you be interested? Stuff like that. And, that recruiting, it all happens after the season now in the spring, and it's all portal guys. So it's just so much different now than when I first started. It's just not as much interest in recruiting, I think. But maybe that changes, if they get good and they start winning, I think the interest would pick up. But yeah, it's just a lot. It's way different than, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. I remember when they signed Marcus McDuffie out of high school, because I think he was Marshall's first 4-star. Mm-hmm. That was a huge deal.
Yeah.
And you're just not getting that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. He's, that's a good point. Yeah. He was right before, right before Etienne. But yeah, that's another Northeast guy. They're both from New York, so, or that area. So yeah, you look at the recruiting class they just brought in, it's all transfers, one JUCO guy, and I think one high school guy. So,
who are some of the new guys to look forward to for this coming year?
Kenyon Giles would be the guy, I would say, is the name that people will quickly come to realize. He's like, if you watch the Aftershocks, I don't know when this is going up, but like the Aftershocks, they're going to have a guy, Marcus Keene, 5'9", just dynamic scorer.
I've seen him in the TBT on another team.
Yeah, TBT legend. So,
yep.
Kenyon Giles in the exact same mold, 5'9", super dynamic, very explosive, just is a pure scorer. He's not going to average 5 assists. He's a guy that's going to go out there and get you 20, though, and he can get you 20, and he can work off the ball. He can be on the ball. So he is versatile. I'll be interested to see, how WSU uses him. Last year, when he had kind of his shooting breakout from beyond the arc, he was mostly off the ball. They had him running around screens and mostly doing a lot of his work off the ball, catch and shoot opportunities. But he is a guy, you could just give it to him and say, hey, clear out, we need a bucket. Those are the kind of guys you need in the American. You don't want the offense to be solely iso ball, but at the end of the shot clock. How many times have we seen in the last 2 or 3 years somebody that doesn't have that jumper that defenses respect, so they just put their head down and something crazy at the basket and hoping just to draw a foul. And I don't think that's going to be the case this year in Wichita State. Giles is really, really talented scorer. I'll be interested how does he hold up on the defensive end. It's a small dude, 5'9", like 160. So he is pretty feisty though. Like he will, he's not going to go out there and get punked. I mean, he's going to stand his ground. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from just talking to different coaches and players. They all say KG, dude is an elite scorer. Wichita State really hasn't had a guy like that for quite some time, maybe since the Marshall days. Because, Craig Porter was probably the best point guard they've had, but he's not really like I'm going to go out there and get 20. Like, he's not. He was like more of a facilitator, more of a playmaker. Kenyon Giles, this is a dude that's going to be, you're going to have to be going over screens, over the three-point line. Defenses are going to have to account for him. Karan Boyd is another one, 6'6", 225, just looks like a man-child out there, looks like a defensive end. And I was actually telling Rashard Kelly at practice today, I was like, I mean, he reminds me a little bit of you. I mean, you need to like tutor this guy because Mills was talking about like, trying to get those guys around the aftershocks and maybe just like seeing what it's like. And I was like, there's some Rashard Kelly in there. Maybe not. Rashard had some playmaking that wasn't always used at Wichita State. That's kind of come out in his pro career, but Rashard is a pretty good comp. I mean, this guy is going to get after it on defense. He was the player of the year in the conference he was coming from. He can guard 1 through 4. He can hold up from down low. He can guard on the perimeter. Sounds like Mills is going to use him a lot at guarding like the point of attack. So whoever is like the main guy on the perimeter for the other team, Karan Boyd, we're just going to trust you to, wipe that guy out. And he's just super big, can move really good laterally, and it's just like so physical too. I mean, I think that's going to be the thing that stands out. Kind of like Dexter Dennis, what we saw a couple years ago, but he's just bigger than Dex, and maybe not as athletic, but I mean he can just really be physical with guards. And they said they're having him run some point this year. I don't think he's going to be like averaging like 4 assists or anything, but more as like an initiator because they like having that mismatch. If somebody tries to hide a guard on him, he can just kill that when he's going and chasing a rebound. And he's going to be a mismatch on the glass if he's at the guard position. So they're going to try to finagle it a little bit, find mismatches. And I think the other thing is just how much bigger the front court is than it was last year. Really since WSU went to the American, they've always played a small ball 4. It's always been like a 6'5", 6'6" dude. Corey Washington last year. This year they're going to have 6'9" in that spot. Jared Valencia, that's a name to watch. I loved watching his film. I think this guy is going to be really, really good. A really good just glue guy. I don't know if he's going to average like 12, 13 points, but he's just really, really good defensively, really talented, great timing, just super long, very bouncy, and he's just going to provide more size at the 4. Should make them a better rebounding team. And then Dylan Battie off the bench, and he's another 6'8" guy, pretty lanky, pretty athletic, explosive. So they're just going to be bigger up front. And then you got Will Berg, 7'2". You can't coach that kind of size. So he came
from Purdue, right?
Purdue, yeah, 7-foot factory.
That.
Yeah, so he's been.
I saw that from you, actually.
Yeah, he's been battling, Zach Edey and Trey Kaufman-Renn and All-Americans the last 3-4 years. So, I mean, he's coming to Wichita State. He's going to get to play more and kind of showcase, what he can do. And he's going to split time with Emmanuel Okafor, 6'9", pretty more athletic, at the 5, but really good defender as well. And, so they just feel better about their depth. Last year when Quincy Ballard came off the court, it was done. It was, they're giving up an 8-0 run here. And there's just huge drop-off in production, when Quincy Ballard was on the bench. Just the plus-minus was just insane. And I don't think they're going to have that problem this year. I think they feel better about the depth at the 4 and the 5. So those are some of the new guys
Good.
To expect.
Good. It just seems like over the last few years, live ball turnovers have just killed WSU.
Yeah.
There's been way too many. Hard to watch sometimes. So hopefully they can get some ball handlers. And I can't even think of, Colby Rogers, I guess, a real guy that you can count on to hit a three.
Yeah,
That's going to step into when you're like, that's got a good chance of going in.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they've changed that. Yeah, they've definitely have gone out on the recruiting path and targeted guys that are 40% 3-point shooters, and that's something. Yeah, I mean, it's been like 6-7 years since that first WSU team in the American, like Austin Reeves and Landry Shamet and guys like that. Like, they really haven't had a great 3-point shooting team since then. And really, they've been some of the worst shooters in the country for a lot of the last, 4 or 5 years. So they went out in the portal and they got, Giles, like we just talked about. That's a guy that's going to be a dead-eye shooter. Michael Gray is another one. Brian Anurik, all those guys are 40% shooters at the D1 level this past season. So we have seen that before, though. Great shooters come to Coke Arena, then for whatever reason, they just haven't translated. Mostly like JUCO, but they have had a lot of good shooters over the years where they bill them as, we're going to be a better shooting team this year. Well, I mean, they say that every offseason, and then, every season comes around and, they're at 32%. So I do think, though, like on paper, if you just look at 3-point percentage at where they were at last year, it's a 7% jump from what Wichita State was last year. So Dre Kendall is another guy that I think fans are really going to love. He's a JUCO guy from Barton, won a national championship, super quick, explosive, another tiny guy, 5'10", $160, $170, but he is like more of a true point guard. He's going to really set the table. And you've seen a lot of these good AAC teams, they have really quick, really dependable point guards. Like you said, live ball turnovers have just been haunting them for years and years and years. And not only does that give you an empty on offense, but then it's almost like a guaranteed 2 points at the other end on transition. So it hurts your defense and your offense. So, yeah, if they can clean that up, I mean, that's an easy way to improve your efficiency, just elementary stuff. Just take care of the ball. If you're going to turn it over, make sure it's a dead ball.
Right. Getting shots on every possession has been an issue.
That's
for
the name of the
WSU.
game, yeah.
Right. Yeah, man, hopefully they can figure it out, get the crowd back in the seats. Because, I mean, God, we were talking last year when Northern Iowa came to town, it was an okay crowd. There was probably, 6,000 people there. And it was the Turgeon ceremony, right? That was that game. That was actually kind of sad because they did it at halftime. The 6,000 people that were there, like 3,000 of them went to the concourse. So now there's 3,000, 2,500 listening to Turgeon talk. I thought that was pretty sad.
Yeah, it's just so different than what it was. And he was there at the tail. I mean, he's the one that got it going. That was the sellout streak. And I mean, it's just a new reality, though. I mean, it's just it's hard to sell out college sports, especially basketball. And you just got to win. I think fans, like at the price point it was, I mean, it's hard to get people to come out and be like, hey, like here's a 7th place team in the American Athletic Conference, and if you have a family of 4, you're gonna have to pay over $100 to come out. So that's a big financial commitment. Like I said, all the games are on TV now. They're all streaming on ESPN Plus, and real easy to just watch games from home. So teams or schools are having to become more and more creative with finding ways to get fans to come out to games. And like I said, it's not just a Wichita State issue, but I think Kevin Saul has done everything in his control. I think he's done a really good job of. I think he's a really good speaker. I mean, he instills confidence in people, but at the end of the day, I mean, you're judged on wins and losses, and like he's the one that's hired, Paul Mills, Brian Green, Terry Nooner. So at the end of the day, like you're judged on like whether they win or lose. But I think everything that's in his control, like how the athletic department operates, the NIL stuff, I think he's done a really good job of trying to generate that. But there's only so much he can do. At the end of the day, I mean, they got to win.
Sure.
Yeah, it's funny to think about what Ben Jacobson probably thought when he came in for that game. The last time he was in Wichita, right during the heyday of the Marshall era, he probably went back to Northern Iowa and talked to the brass up there and was like, you guys wouldn't believe what's going on there now.
He went from the call. That was game day. It was Northern Iowa.
Yeah.
Remember when game day came to town?
Couldn't have been a better atmosphere during that time when we left. The last couple games of Northern Iowa to what it is now. He was probably stunned.
Well, like I said, I mean, even if it's only half full, like it's still a great environment. Like it's still like I travel around, I get to go to all the road games on the American, and like Memphis, like when that crowd, but that's an NBA arena, so it's different. It's way bigger. It's not as loud. FAU, like when they were coming off that Final Four run, that's like a little gym. That's like 3,000 people. That got loud, but it's only 3,000 people. So like, in the American, I would still say Wichita State, they have the best environment. I think the loudest one that I was around was Cincinnati, but obviously they're gone now to the Big 12. But yeah, I mean, it's still even half full. I think it's still, the best environment. But yeah, it just speaks to like how much better it could be,
Right.
If you get those extra, those 5,000, 6,000, those are the diehards. Those are the ones that are riding with Wichita State. It's like, how do you get those extra 4,000 to come back? Those fans that are, on the fence or want to see a winner. That's kind of the key. If they can get that back, yeah, to get the NIL rolling, the potential is there for Wichita State. No football. I think, in this new NIL landscape after the House settlement, there's a real opportunity for schools without football to really make a dent and really, go all in on basketball. So, the opportunity is there, but you gotta capitalize on it.
Yeah. And the love for the university is still here in the city, I think. They just gotta think about all those games, like the Cincinnati games, or you go back to like when Northern Iowa came to town, back in the Valley days when Creighton was coming to town. The support, it's there. They just gotta win.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the winning when that fell off, and like we talked about earlier, like the familiarity that fans felt with the roster. I think there's a lot of contributing factors to why it's just not the same. But yeah, I mean, I remember those first years in the American, when Houston came for the first AAC game ever, they had the stripe out, and it was just an insane atmosphere. And then WSU comes out, they hit like 7 threes in a row. They get up like 25 to 4 on Houston. They're both like top 25 good. And yeah, it's just incredible. It wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, so it's still, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's there, but
it's definitely there.
Yeah, it's just harder and harder to get fans to come out to games. But if Shocker basketball becomes great again, I mean, it's like, people love the basketball. They love going out to Coke Arena, but it's like a social experience too. Like you get to go out and see, if you're a season ticket holder, you're the people sitting in your row, and you get to talk to them, and you form those relationships. And like, Shocker basketball, if they were playing that night, that was the place to be in Wichita. And so yeah, if they can get that back, I mean, it could be special. I mean, I've talked to enough national guys they all tell me that. They're like, yeah, it's a sleeping giant. They feel like, if Wichita State gets it together, they get the winning in order. NIL is there. The fan support is there. They could be a major player in college basketball, but just got to get it off the ground now.
For sure, man.
Right.
Wichita's always been a college basketball hotbed too. Like growing up in school, there's a bunch of KU fans, some K-State fans. And it seemed like your Wichita State fans, at least when I was in school, was kind of a minority. I was almost kind of on an island, but everybody had a team, So the love for college basketball is here. And you think back to those Cincinnati games when Jerron Cumberland was with Cincinnati. God, he was good.
Good at flopping. Just kidding. I always liked him. I just know WSU fans were triggered by him because he shot like 22 free throws some game, and I thought that's a skill to be able to draw contact, but yeah, PJ Haggerty this last year at Memphis, he's kind of like the spirit child of Cumberland. I think he's worse at foul baiting.
Talking about NIL, he went to K-State.
Yeah.
Yeah, K-State's I don't know any details, but they have to have quite the NIL.
Yeah.
They're pulling kids from everywhere and have been for the last couple of years, whether they work out or not.
Yeah.
That is what it is, but they've been getting some big fish.
Yeah. Yeah, they have that farm money up there. So yeah, they've been killing it at NIL, and then so I mean it's there. I think there's a lot of passionate people at Wichita State who, were on board with the Shockers, and a lot of those people were, Greg Marshall fans, though. And like when that ended, that just that was tough to come back from. And then obviously they haven't won at that level since Greg left, and so that's just an uphill challenge for Wichita State, getting those people back in the fold, proving that, hey, we can win, post Marshall era. And so it's an uphill challenge, but yeah, it's definitely there. I mean, that potential.
Marshall needs to get his flowers, I think. A lot of those games are some of the greatest sports memories of my life. Seriously. A Chiefs fan, Royals fan too, but man, the big WSU wins, like beating Gonzaga to go to the Sweet 16, going undefeated. Obviously, we were when they lost to Kentucky and St. Louis. We were there for that. Like, God, how brutal was that? And then they come back, and what do? They beat Indiana and Kansas, two legitimate blue bloods to go to the Sweet 16. That was the first 3 years of Van Fleet and Baker. How awesome was that?
Yeah.
Shit.
That was all before me. I joke all the time. It's like they had their three biggest games that first year I covered them was in the Maui Championship against Notre Dame. They lose at the buzzer. Then it was Cincinnati on Senior Day. For the American Championship, sold out crowd, Senior Day for that huge senior class, lose at the buzzer. And then in the NCAA tournament, Marshall, you could even throw in like the AAC tournament, like in the semifinals against Houston. They lost that one too. So they were 0 for 4 in like big games that first year that I covered them. So I don't know what that's like. I mean, I've covered, obviously when they won the American Championship the COVID year, but it was just so strange. They didn't play a full schedule.
Right.
When they beat Houston, it was in front of 800 fans because they had the cap. They win the tournament, and then almost the same thing. Conference tournament comes, they lose by 1. NCAA tournament comes, they're playing in like an empty arena. So weird. Tyson Etienne, I don't think he hit a field goal. It's like his worst game of his career. And then you go back to that NCAA tournament, the last one I covered, it was Landry Shamet. That was probably his worst game of his career. And they lose, and they lost to Marshall that game. But I was trying to remember the COVID year. They lost to Drake, yeah. Drake by 1. So, I mean, they really haven't won like a huge marquee game since I've been covering them. But, I have gone back and done rewatches of the Gonzaga game, of some of those NCAA tournament games, and yeah, it's just, man, I can't imagine the adrenaline of, I'm just like a basketball junkie, so just I don't care if Wichita State wins or loses, it doesn't matter to me. Obviously, I think every writer would tell you they prefer if they won because there's more interest for a winning team. It's better to write about winning teams, but I don't really care. But just like that atmosphere of like a big game atmosphere, you kind of just get those goosebumps and just like that adrenaline rush. And I get like sweaty hands the last 3 minutes. And I don't even really care, but it's like this is like such an intense atmosphere. And yeah, I haven't really got a lot of that, the last few years. They had the nice NIT run, with Marshall and McDuffie year. That was probably the biggest thing that I've covered since. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I tell Paul all the time, I'm jealous. He got that run where they won. They didn't just go to the NCAA tournaments. They were winning consistently. I think they won 6 straight years in the tournament. So
I think Marshall had a really good NCAA tournament record.
Yeah, great. Yeah, especially for the seeds they got. And, that was kind of before Ken Pom took over and the net and the efficiency. Because they were getting pretty lowballed. If you look at the Ken Pom numbers, efficiency, they were top 10 in the country in efficiency. They were getting 9 seeds, 10 seeds, 11 seeds. So you have to keep that in mind too, for how poor of seeding they were getting, and they were still winning every single year. Yeah, pretty impressive what they were able to do.
For sure.
What was it like covering the last couple years of Marshall? Just being on the inside, could you kind of tell that this shit's about to go down? Or
well,
did you even
all that
get
stuff.
anything?
Yeah, all that stuff happened before my time. So it was
all of Marshall was before your time.
All the allegations. So
okay.
It was right before I took over. So yeah, I didn't get a sense of that. It was just it's just an intense guy, and I always tell people they always kind of say that, kind of laughing. It's that must have been fun, covering Marshall. And I always appreciated it because I felt like he made me better because, you couldn't come in on a post-game press conference and ask like a lazy question because he would, rip your head off. And, I thought he made me better because, he couldn't ask lazy questions around him. So I always appreciated that about him. And even if it was, sometimes, you have to take your lumps in front of people. Like I said, I travel around and go on the road with him. And there were a couple of times where, he kind of, dunked on me in front of like other media. And it was like, I just remember like at UConn, that was, they have a ton of media. There's probably like 50 people in the room. And he kind of, was getting snippy with me. And I was just like, man, that's, it was just, it's kind of embarrassing. I was like young and this first year I was doing it. So it was tough. But I think it made me better in the long run just because it's, he brought out the best and best in you. You wanted to gain that respect. And I think by the end of it, I think I did gain his respect because he could tell I was like putting in the time to learn basketball and to watch the team. And he always kind of poked fun because he's not like big into like the numbers or like the analytics or anything like that. And like I was really getting into that at that time. And he would always poke fun of me. And but at the end, he called me a basketball scientist one time, so that's probably the nicest thing he ever said to me.
That's high praise.
I know. I'll take that. He's like you said, a Hall of Fame coach, and do it at a really, really high level. So I think by the end, I think I gained his trust, gained his approval. But yeah, it's just so weird how all that stuff went down because you have to remember all that stuff comes out during COVID. So like. It wasn't like it was like a normal off season where we're talking to him the whole summer. There's practices leading up to the season. Like all that stuff happened during COVID where everyone was away. There's no interviews. Like I still haven't talked to him since, all that stuff went down. And it's just like, it was just so weird because, it all happened at such a weird time in the world. So, just very strange. But yeah, I didn't get a sense of any of that stuff because all that stuff was mostly like in the 15, 16, 17 range. So I didn't take over till the 17, 18 year. So
were you ever do you ever watch practice under Marshall?
No. So like I think that's pretty standard for most is like they don't have open practices, especially at the college level. Because they're just like sensitive about like injury stuff if you witness something or sometimes there are like blow ups that happen. That's just like I've talked to Fred before and like that Final Four team that was a weird dynamic. Like the team on like they fought all the time and like I'm sure if media would have been there they'd be like, man, this team is so dysfunctional and they were just it just worked. The way it worked out. That was the team that made the run. So yeah, I think that's why they don't like having people there, just because like it can be a distraction for them. Like if you're writing stories about all that stuff like all the time. So yeah, that's been kind of the case ever since I took over. There's never been open practice at Wichita State. I think Mills is more lax on that. Like if we're talking to him after practice, he doesn't mind if you come like 30 minutes before and just watch the tail end. But yeah, with Greg. He was always pretty wary of. He always used to like rib me about like when I would do like scouting reports or like do like in-depth stories because I had Synergy back then, and I would use that stuff and kind of like break down plays for Wichita State. And he was always like, "Why are you putting our stuff out there? Like I don't like you like putting our plays out there." And I was just all these teams have like advanced scouting, like they're all scouting these guys at a high level. It's like I took it as like a sign of respect. Like if he's worried about it, that means like I'm probably on the right track. So, but yeah, he was interesting to deal with. But yeah, with practice, not so much. Like I don't ever get to watch them like full on practice.
Gotcha. I bet a preseason Marshall practice was pretty damn intense.
Yeah. He got after it. That's what everyone I've talked to has said.
That
I
totally
talked to
makes
Forbes
sense.
and Jans and just like what sets him apart is just that intensity, that competitive spirit, just all the time. And, as I've been around the game longer and longer, that's what coaches I've kind of picked up on is like how you practice, what you emphasize in practice, those are the things that are going to show up in a game. That's why they're, always a top 10 rebounding team every single year. Because, you talk to Forbes or Jans or any of those guys, Lindstedt that were with them for a long time. And they all said, every single day we would do rebounding drills. We would really emphasize that. And, just the attention to detail, I think, is what set Greg apart. And then just, he's just the next level motivator too. I think that's kind of easy to see on the outside. You could just see like how fired up, how intense he was on the sidelines. And he just, brought something out of players that I don't think every coach could do. I mean, he was just a master motivator. The X's and O's, that's, not always the most important thing. I mean, if you can get guys to just play hard and play for each other, that's you're going to win a lot of games just by doing that.
Right. That totally makes sense. About you talk about the 13 team having a little dysfunction, but they ended up going to the Final Four. That team had, if I remember right, that team had a pretty strange year. Because I remember Baker was hurt a lot of that year. And it seemed like we always lost the interest game, but I think we played... God, if I remember right, I think it was
UAB
like Southern
or
Miss.
something. Or maybe Southern Miss, yeah.
Got their ass kicked. And I remember them stubbing their toe a few times in Valley. Played not a lot because they were still coming out of the Valley. Being a 9 seed is not easy because you lose a game in the Valley, your season's in trouble. And then Baker got healthy towards right at the end of that year, right before the conference tournament. And he came back and was instant juice, and then they just took off.
Yeah,
pretty crazy, man.
Yeah, they had like you
talk about lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, they just got hot at the right time.
Yep.
Yeah, they had the talent all along. Clee early was just an unreal talent.
Dog.
And he's a crazy dude, but I mean that's part of what made him so good was because like he just had that irrational confidence, and sometimes. You need a guy like that. You think of like J.R. Smith in the NBA, like he was like that Dion Waiters, it's another guy that's just irrational confidence. One of these games, he might go like 1 for 10, but the next he's going to go like 7 for 10, and he's just he's got a flamethrower. So, not very many guys could match up with Clee. And I think that's another testament to Greg too for, keeping that all, just managing personalities and not letting that blow up. Because from, what Fred described and some of those guys, when they did the reunion a couple years ago, they made it sound like, things were pretty rocky there. And it was not pretty. I think they lost like 3 or 4 games in a row at one point during that season. And they were able to bounce back and, pretty incredible with the personalities in that locker room. And, Malcolm Armstead was a big force in that. And they had some real dudes, like you said, some real talented guys, but also some big personalities. And to keep that all, meshed together, that's a credit to the coaching.
Yeah. Clay Anthony Early was so good at WSU. He was such a prolific scorer. Look at those 2 years. They go to the Final Four, then they go undefeated. The 2 Clay Anthony Early years.
Thinking of someone like Clay Anthony Early playing Valley teams is crazy. Because he's a 6'7", 6'8",
He's a pro.
Shooting
he was a
forward.
pro, yeah.
Right. And to go up against these dudes, and Drake's good now, but going up against Drake back then, or Evansville back then, or Southern Illinois, like,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's like us. No disrespect, but like he is a level different than those guys.
Yeah.
It's not like us, but you get my point.
Yeah, he was special scorer. Like I go back and watch those clips, and it's just like, man, he is a tough shot maker. I saw a little of that Marcus McDuffie's senior year after all those guys graduated, and it was kind of Marcus's team, and they had all those baby freshmen like Eric Stevenson and Dexter and Mo, and they just had like this weird group. Grant Sherfield was on that team, and they just like Marcus had to really carry the scoring load, and he took a lot of really, really tough shots. That was the year they went on that NIT run. Kind of the same thing, they kind of struggled throughout the year, and then they just got hot at the right time. But that's probably the closest thing I've seen to it is Marcus' senior year. He made some ridiculous turnaround jumpers, some really tough threes, and he carried a pretty big load that senior year, but I don't think it was anything close. I mean, Clee was doing the same stuff for a top 10 team, like you said, a 35-0 team. So different level to it for sure. And I don't think I don't know if we'll ever see another score like that at Wichita State. That's tough.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was a JUCO guy,
Yeah.
wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. They were starting, so they were hitting the road with 3 NBA players, and then to kill Cotton in their starting lineup, just heading to Bradley, going to beat them by 35. It's amazing.
While these other places are sold out.
Yeah.
It was like a carnival every
Right.
time WSU would have an away game at the Valley.
Yeah, it's crazy. It was funny, actually, at TBT practice today. I don't know. Do you remember Jackie Carmichael?
Yeah, he
The
kicked to
kick?
kill
Yeah.
Cotton in the mouth.
Yeah.
That-
I walk
yeah.
in.
I totally forgot about
He's just
that.
randomly sitting on the bench. And I was like, why is Jackie Carmichael back in Wichita? And I guess he plays the same pro team as Connor Frankamp. And like his wife and girlfriend, like they're all friends. So they became like a pretty close there. So he was just back in Wichita. I chatted him up and he's like, he was laughing at, being back in enemy territory and just like he has to hear about that all the time. And he just laughed. I mean, he was a great guy. He just kind of laughed it off. He's just like, it was just such a fluke thing. Obviously, I didn't mean to do it. But, he gets ribbed. There's like a big, John Markwell is a huge WSU fan from that era. He was there. He was kind of giving him a hard time. He was like taking a picture of him. He's going to send it to Greg. And, but yeah, it's just like crazy to think about back in that era. Like, but that was kind of a blast from the past when I walked in today. Jackie Carmichael.
Wow.
So
You want to hear a funny story about that game? I remember that game vividly and where we were. So we were at my grandparents' house. We used to, in the heyday, our whole extended family used to get together for a lot of WSU road games too. Obviously, home games we'd go, road games we'd get together. And I remember Troy and I, because WSU was behind late. I forget how many points, but enough to where we went home early. We're like, all right, we're just gonna go home, maybe catch it on the radio if anything crazy happens, And we were driving home, and I think we kind of quit listening to it too. And then we're like, all right, we'll check it one more time. And they were like down 2, and Mike Kennedy's calling it, and Clancy Early got the ball at the top of the key, and I remember Mike Kennedy, he's like, Early for the lead. he like kicks a cord or something, it fuzzes out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like static, and then WSU's up by 1 with how many seconds remaining. Troy and I are like, what the hell? Because they were down that entire game, and then we flip it right on. Clancy Early hits a game winner.
Yeah.
It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then it was the Jackie Carmichael kick in the neck.
Kung Fu kick, yep. Crazy. I don't think any of the Wichita State guys were on that team. That's what I was asking them today. I think it was Zach, maybe. Bush. He was like a walk-on that first year, but I think all those guys came right after it. So I was thinking about doing a story on it, but I was like, none of these guys are, because Stutz was there and he was right before, and then like, Shard, Duff, and Connor were right after. So it was kind of like that middle period. But I talked to Jackie about it. He was awesome. He just laughed it off, and he's like, if I saw Greg today, that's something we could just like sit there and laugh about. And, like back then, they just hated each other. Like Illinois State, Wichita State.
They
that
were
was
fighting
a
in the tunnel.
huge rivalry. Marshall hated
coach.
Illinois
What
State.
was his name?
Their coach was
Yeah.
a big figure in that rivalry too.
He was poking at WSU on the way out too.
Yeah.
What was
about
his
leaving the
name?
American.
Yeah.
I
So
could picture
they,
He might still be there. Look that one up, Blake.
yeah, so they hated each other, and he said like now though, if you saw him in the street, it's just like something they could like laugh about. Like how crazy was that? Like such a wild game, and Jackie's
wild.
like an awesome guy, and he's from Manhattan. I think a lot of people forgot. He's a
wow.
Kansas dude.
Yep.
So yeah, so he was back in town, and I thought that was kind of cool that he was back in Wichita of all places.
I know.
Those Illinois State teams were pretty good.
Yeah, he was a
They
great
always
player.
Gave,
Yeah.
they gave WSU a run for their money when
They-
WSU was real good.
Yeah. That was the year that WSU was a 9 seed. They lose that game.
Yeah, I think that's why Illinois
Man.
State fans were so upset about it, because like that was their chance to knock off Wichita State, who was just dominating the conference. And yeah, I mean that's just like I said, that was before my time, but I remember hearing about that. It's obviously like an infamous play in Wichita State lore. So
yeah.
Well, they came back from like
Crazy
9 points
comeback,
in
yeah.
I think they
47
were down
seconds or
8.
something.
I think they were down 8 with like 40 to go.
Yeah.
And then the kick in the neck. Mm-hmm. And then Clancy Early hit that 3 to either take the lead or tie.
Yeah.
But I just remember the radio going out. He's like, Early for 3. Static.
It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Crazy times. Such fun times.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know?
So yeah, I think Shocker. I mean, Wichita. Yeah, it's just it's a more fun place when Shocker basketball is doing well. So So yeah, I mean, I always tell people like when I first took over, they would give me
The next
No,
one.
not Jankovic.
It was their next
He
coach.
followed Jankovic.
Gotcha. Yeah. When I first took over, I'd do like ticket giveaways on social media, like Instagram or like Twitter back then. And, they get like 500, 600 retweets. People were like all about it. And Dan Mueller. Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep. He hated Marshall.
And now,
Yes, he
I
did.
would try to give away tickets this last season, the last 2 or 3 years, like you can't even give away tickets. Like there's just, just the lack of interest is crazy. So
It's sad.
yeah, if they can get it back, yeah, like you said, I mean, it's just better for the city, when the Shockers are doing better. So
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. I wonder if they would have been better off if he just got a few games. I don't know. There was a lot of shit that went down, though. Marshall.
Oh, Marshall, yeah. See, I always tell people I don't know if he would want to coach in this era. 'Cause you've seen a lot of these old guard coaches who got into it for, the way that it was. And now, when you're paying players and they're transferring every year,
True.
I don't think he'd want to put up with that. So I think, and I think that's a big reason why he hasn't come back, too. I mean, he could come back. I mean, there's nothing in that contract, that buyout that stipulates that he can't coach. So like he could be making double salary if he wanted to, but I don't think we'll see him again on the sidelines. So I think he's happy, getting that $50,000 or whatever it is every 2 weeks and playing golf
swinging
and
the golf club.
splitting time between here and South Carolina. So I think he's pretty happy in life now, I bet.
Yeah, good for him. I hope, and I bet he will in due time, really get the recognition he deserves.
It'll be interesting to see. That's what it'll be. I'm very curious to see how Wichita State approaches that. Like,
Yeah. Is there any
Get-
steam on Van Fleet and Baker getting their jersey retired? You heard anything on that?
they're waiting on Fred to retire, basically.
Oh.
They want like him to. It's so hard to fit it in the NBA schedule.
Yeah.
Because obviously they're playing at the same time, so they want to go in together, and I think they're going to wait till Fred's retired and he can have his whole family there, and like Ron and his growing family now. So I think that's why you haven't seen him yet.
Okay.
That'll bring the people back for at least a game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That is one of the all-time college basketball backcourts.
Yeah,
It is.
I think Clee needs to be up there too. I don't think that's a question.
If he was a
so-
4-year guy, he'd be a no-brainer because he's one of the best players to ever put the uniform on. It was just 2 years.
Yeah, I still think
Right.
2 years. I think you still got to put him up there.
I mean,
but-
hell, Final Four and undefeated season.
yeah,
Those are his 2 years.
that's
The only
pretty
thing
tough
that
to
stopped
top.
Clancy early was foul trouble.
Yeah,
If he didn't get foul trouble, WSU was probably winning.
yeah,
God, he was good.
yeah,
Remember that dunk he had in the Final Four?
yeah.
Man,
He was a freak.
threw
I'm
that
so,
shit down.
I was so surprised. I thought he would for sure turn out in the NBA. I thought he was.
Me too, man.
I thought his game was made for the NBA, and obviously like some other stuff happened there. But yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Now he's just like dropping 40 every night, like over in Saudi Arabia, and like I'll see clips of him every now and then. It looks like he's loving life over there, scoring a ton of points, putting on shows, and like he's still so animated, and he's worth the price of admission for sure.
Is he back for this year's TBT?
No, I don't think he comes back anymore. He came back the first like year into, but yeah, I don't think he's back this year. It's just hard to get. A lot of people don't understand like how tough it is to get these guys to come back for a week, for at least a week. Honestly, like if they keep winning, it's going to be longer. So. I've seen it up close with like Zach trying to construct a TBT roster, and it's just so hard to get commitments. And then guys get hurt, guys sign contracts, and then their agents are like, "Hey, you can't play in this anymore." So, you have 3 former Shockers, and you got Trey Wade, if you want to count him. He didn't finish here, but he played 2 years. So they have 4 of the 10 are WSU guys, and that's like that number has steadily decreased over the years. It started out as almost everyone was an alumni, but it's just tough to get guys. If you look at the list of all the guys he asked, he asked everyone you would think of. That's a former Shocker, and then also the last few years of the program, they haven't really turned out a ton of like high level pros that are going to help the aftershocks. It's not like they can just ask anybody. Just because you played at WSU, I mean, that's not always good enough if you're trying to win the $1 million. So the Aftershocks, they've been in the mix for a championship for the last 5-6 years. So it's not like they can take anybody. You got to be at a certain level, and the only guys that have been at that level the last few years, they're right on the doorsteps of NBA, or they said no. Tyson Etienne, he's on a two-way. Craig Porter, signed in the NBA now. Dexter Dennis, he's in the G League having a lot of success, so he doesn't want to risk it. Grant Sherfield, he was signed up to play for the Aftershocks, but then he signed a huge deal in China, so now he can't play. So it's just a lot of stuff. Zach Brown was signed up, got hurt. So it's just tough to get a lot of these Shocker guys back in it. So it's just it's a grind, and I've seen it up close, and it's just like one of those things you don't really think of, where it's just like, man, why can't they bring back Tikel Khan and Joe Ragland and guys like that? It's just like, it just doesn't work that way. They have to come back, and it has to fit in their schedule, and they spend 9 or 10 months out of every year overseas, working, playing basketball. They only get so much time at home with family, so it's just a lot of things to consider. And obviously, guys don't want to get hurt playing TBT. When they got contracts lined up.
Sure.
If you get hurt, then the team can pull out of that contract, so you're risking some playing in it. So it's there's a lot of different factors there.
And we're getting older.
Yeah.
Tikel Cotton's probably about our age.
Yeah, he's over 30 now.
A lot of these guys, you give it 5 more years, all those guys are going to be aged out of even probably playing out of that.
Yeah. Joe is, look at Clevin. He was like 37 last year. He was playing a little, and it's just harder to perform. Even like this class with like Shard, McDuff, and Connor, those guys are 30 now. So it's not like they're going to be able to play forever. So unless there's like that next group behind them that want to take the mantle, who knows? This might be the last year of the Aftershocks. So
damn,
I think fans need to kind of realize that. I mean, it's just so easy to take it for granted because they've done it for 5, 6, 7 years now, and always been good, and always put on a good show, and it's not going to last forever. So that's something to keep in mind with TBT right around the corner.
Sure.
Yeah.
Clevin Hanna was ahead of his time, man. He was the first one of an excellent run of guards at WSU.
Yeah.
Man, he was a great player on teams that just weren't very good. But they needed that foundation. And like you said earlier, you could just see it year after year with Marshall. They just take another big step. Yeah. Well, yeah, they had Clevin Hanna, Joe Ragland.
NBA player Gal McKell, by the way.
Yeah. Malcolm Armstead, Fred VanVleet, Landry Shamet. And then was Craig Porter a Marshall guy too?
Years. He was a Marshall recruit, but he never coached him. So he was on that weird COVID year team.
Unheard of run of guards.
He was an IB team, IB guy. But yeah, Craig turned into, because he was hurt like that whole first year he was here, and like he was just kind of never really put it together, and then he came back that second year, and he was just so good. He was really, he probably took the biggest jump that I've seen a player at WSU take, just from year over year, and that was probably more just to do with him being healthy finally, because I think he was doing that stuff before he got hurt, and then he was just hurt that whole first year. But yeah, he was huge for the IB run, because like they took down Houston and were pretty competitive in the American, and yeah, I mean that's just, I feel bad because I mean he kind of he was just like wrong time, because like it was right when WSU was switching over, like the NIL era was beginning. They were way behind, and he didn't really ever get any NIL support, and he was able to bring in guys like Craig Porter and Jaquan Walton and guys like that. He brought in some serious talent, and who knows what he would have done with some money and with the portal, but he's another guy making a lot of money, getting paid a lot of money for Wichita State to not coach.
Right. Yeah, him and Marshall making a lot of money. Craig Porter was really good. He was really well-rounded.
Yeah, he was a big rebounder.
On the ball. Yep. Yeah, he could sky and block shots.
Fun player to watch, yeah.
Oh, man.
I think he led the country in block shots for like 6'2" and under. So.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Incredible timing, yeah. Hopefully he gets some more run with the Cavs this year. They're just so loaded that they didn't really need him. But I think with who they let go this offseason, Ty Jerome's gone, so he might get some more run now. So hopefully, I mean, I think he deserves. I mean, he produces every time they give him like 10, 15 minutes. Like he puts up stats. So I think really cool to see him, and just knowing his background. I did a story on him his senior year, just coming from Terre Haute. real, just bad upbringing and just was put in some really tough spots as a kid. And to see someone like that make it very, very much like, Fred coming out of Rockford.
Sure.
So you love to see guys like that succeed. And, it's just cool to see behind the scenes, being able to afford stuff for his mom now, give her a better life, someone that was, struggling with them all along, before the Wichita State days, before the JUCO days, before he won that national title. And now he's in the NBA and making a lot of money, and he's able to live that life that he always dreamed about. So you love to see like the success stories like that. And now you look at Fred, player,
he's the president of the Players Association.
Yeah, so incredible stuff.
Yeah, so happy for a guy like Van Fleet. He's probably my favorite player of all time. So, and the amount of money he's made is just fantastic coming out of Rockford. Tough upbringing, under-recruited.
Yeah. I was talking to the guys because they were obviously with him during that run at WSU, like Shard and, Zach Bush and JR Simon, and they were joking like, he's way more bougier now. Like he'll go on fancy vacations. Like his clothes are way better than they were back at Wichita State. But like he's the same dude. Like you talk to him now, he's the same as that guy as he was, 2012 and 2013 in Wichita. In the dorm room. So I mean, he has not changed. He's still the same grounded dude. And I think that's why he has so much respect. Obviously at Wichita State, and then now you look at the players. He doesn't get to where he is if the players don't respect him. So, I mean, he just has like that aura about him. When he walks in a room, like, people listen. So, he's been that way since Wichita, and like they just all said, like, it's just cool to see him. Nothing surprises them anymore. Going undrafted, winning a G League title, winning an NBA title, signing the big contract, being an all-star. It's just like, nothing Fred does. Nothing surprises him anymore. That's just who he is.
It'll be interesting to see what he does after the NBA because he is an impressive person.
Could be a coach. Could be a lot of things. So
yeah,
these college teams are getting GMs.
Yeah,
I'd like to see him GM WSU.
Come back to Wichita State, be GM.
Man, other than I guess Xavier McDaniel, his jersey should stand alone. Fred's.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Xavier McDaniel led the country in points and rebounds in the same season, which is pretty damn crazy.
Yeah. Stallworth probably in that combo too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably so. But
yeah, they've had some special players, but yeah.
Van Fleet hangs high.
Yep.
Very high. So
for sure.
Man, hell of a player, hell of a run. I'm looking forward to this year's team, man.
Yeah. They'll be interesting. I think they'll be better. I mean, that's a pretty low bar. They were, back into the American middle of the pack. So it's just so hard to tell, with so many newcomers and so many new pieces.
On the staff.
Yeah, I got PJ coming back. So
hell yeah.
That will help with recruiting. I mean, you already saw that at the end. Jared Valencia, that's a Coos guy. So, you're seeing that Houston impact. And, Paulino has Texas roots. Obviously Mills, very deep Texas roots. Also Houston. So they're really prioritizing Texas. So wouldn't it surprise me if they, if you look at that roster, there's going to be a lot of Texas guys, a lot of Houston guys on this team going forward, I think. But, yeah, they're going to be intriguing. I would say that the limited film that I have watched on the new guys, I like it a lot more than what I saw from last year's crop. So I think I really like the moves that they've made, getting the shooting, getting the size in the front court, getting a guy like Kenyon Giles that can really score it. It's going to be a different team. I think that's what I'm most fascinating about because we saw last year's team play kind of the same way for 2 years in a row. And that was kind of against the Mills MO that we saw at Oral Roberts, where they shot a ton of threes. They never turned the ball over, and just were really efficient on offense. And that obviously hasn't been the case at Wichita State the last 2 years. So I think we might get a more of that Oral Roberts type of team at WSU this year.
I hope so. I hope they're just crisper offensively. Just get into your sets quicker, which obviously I know the coaching staff is harping on everybody to do that, but just get into your sets quicker. Get shots. Live ball turnovers, man. They've killed them for the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
That's been like the biggest thing, at least what I've seen with WSU. It's like, damn, man. You go on a 6-0 run and then ball goes off somebody's foot and it's a dunk the other way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's killed them. Yeah, they've been struggling in transition, and bringing in guys that they only really have one true point guard. So that's something that's a little eyebrow raising, but they like a lot of the guys as secondary ball handlers. Someone like Mike Gray, and it sounds like they're trying out Crom Boyd, guys like that. Dre Kendall, great. Like I said, super fast, super quick. I think he's going to be a great playmaker for the team, but what does it look like after him? Because they've been missing that guy that will stir the drink, that set everything up, that will play make, create for others. And also a lot of it's even when they were creating last season, they were just clanking away so much from outside. To get an assist, you got to make the shot. And, they were generating a lot of open shots, and they're just missing a lot of them. So with better shooters, the assist number should go up. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think it's definitely a more intriguing team, probably the most intriguing team he's had of the three, I would say, at Wichita State. This team has definitely piqued my interest, and I think I don't know if it'll be the best. I mean, it could very well be, but I think it's just so much unknown with so many new guys. But I think it'll be worth checking out, seeing how they do, and who knows if they can catch lightning in a bottle for 1 year, maybe get the fans back.
Yeah, well, we'll be there. We re-upped our tickets, so
Yeah.
So we'll be there, man.
Give up an arm and a leg for it.
Maybe a little cheaper than the 16 coming off the Final Four and the Fred and Ron era.
I think they inflated.
You'd think.
I think they inflated the budget to where they can't lower it.
Okay.
Paying two coaches that aren't coaching.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So it hasn't lowered a lot. I know it hasn't raised much. Mm-hmm. Because under Marshall, I think.
Yeah.
Well, we just recently started. Our parents typically were paying for them, but now they've passed the burden on.
They said, you're 30 and you're 27. You start buying these.
They passed the burden on. But I think under Marshall, they were just incrementally going. And then ever since the downfall, they've kind of plateaued.
Yeah.
So we'll see, man. I'm excited for it. You got anything, Dewbey?
No, I'm good.
Taylor, you got anything for us? Where can we find you? Or people listen to us, where can we find you?
Kansas.com is the website, the Wichita Eagle. And follow me on social media, Taylor Eldridge. Pretty much Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. So
cool, man.
You do a great job, seriously.
I appreciate
covering
that.
the team.
You do.
I appreciate it.
You do.
I love basketball, so it's a dream to cover just one team. That's a big reason why I've stayed. Is just I really like being able to sink my teeth into just one team, cover them, all season. And I do miss covering high school sports. I miss doing all the different sports at the high school level and talking to athletes at that. But I still get to do a little bit of that while still doing Wichita State. Still get to travel. That's another really cool thing. So that's one part. I don't really miss the Valley days. I'm glad I missed out on those road trips to Indiana and Illinois and all over the Midwest. Now I get to go to Houston, Philadelphia, New Orleans.
You didn't want to go
Florida.
to Peoria or Terre Haute.
Yeah, I'll take Boca Raton and Tampa and New Orleans, Philly. I'll take those.
Well, awesome, man. You do a hell of a job.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for sitting down with us,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to this season, man.
Of course,
keep doing your thing, and
thank you.
We'll keep following.
Sounds good.
Awesome, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Taylor.